And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. I was going to play all kinds of things from the radio, but I listened to it, and it just sounds like I'm in a tin can. This may sound like I'm in a tin can, but it's the best I got. Um, it's interesting about the world around us. We can either stick our head in the sand, we can either be observant and see what's going on and try to speak to the issue, and or we can get stuck in our own belief structures, and whenever, I mean, that's what happens to fascist entities. Fascist entities are things, Benito Mussolini got his PhD back in '08. I mean, 1908, about what fascism was. And he said it's, you have um, capitalism, you have socialism. Capitalism is when a state controls um, the actions of, capitalism was when capital controls the action of the state. Socialism is when state controls the action of the capital. And fascism is when capital owns the state, right? And ownership is a lot different than control, because control can change. Control is you turn off the tap and the water doesn't flow. The wind blows the other way and your sailboat has to go the other way. But fascism is when it controls the state. So when you go against the wind, when you go against water, usually the wind and water win. And there may be a big tussle, but usually that occurs. So right now, what is going on is a offstage character. You remember in A Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Wizards was up there in his palace, his Emerald Palace, and when Dorothy and the gang went to see him after, they brought the broom of the evil witch. Um, the big wizard that was like a big ball and fire and brimstone and all of that, kind of very godlike. Come back tomorrow. I'm busy right now. Come on, don't talk to me that way. And then Toto kind of jumped out of the basket and went behind the curtain and pulled it away. And there, this little old guy with knobs and switches was controlling the image, right? Image, but no substance. And that's what we got right now. And what really matters, the substance that matters, is your heart, your soul, your spirit, and your conscious intent to co-create with love. Right? Otherwise, it's all an illusion. No big deal. And so I'm up here in the woods thinking that nobody, for years I thought, it'll take them a long time to get here. Well, it did, 25 years. And now they're eating this place alive, right? And for the last 10 years, I tried to enlighten my community. Hey, we better organize. We better get together. We better kind of define what we think we are. Otherwise, this cockroach army is coming. They got a lot of money, and they know what they want. It's not what's right. It's not what's going to work. It may not even be good for them, but they know what they want. They're going to do it. They don't care what you say. So that's what's going on right now. And it really hit big time about 4 years ago. And it just has been speeding up in a way that people are like, right? So they closed down all the beautiful little red schoolhouses that had 10 kids to a teacher and pushed them into a rehab jail where now there's 60 kids to a teacher. And the teachers keep quitting, so they have no teachers, and the kids just sit in the room like it's a prison. It's got bars on the window, no heating, no air conditioning. They get, instead of a really beautiful meal that they used to get in a nice little schoolhouse. And I and a few other folks tried to get the little red schoolhouses turned into community centers. We started 501c3. We got a board. We had our mission statement. We got the colleges app and ETS to get their kids on site. They wrote grants, and we were going to have computer training, automobile training, drug assistance, a 12-step program, meals for people, library, a nurse practitioner, all of that. And the rich, nope, they push their way through, and they had those buildings. And we were told we had to buy them, even though we were the community, for a couple $100,000, and they sold 3 schools to this group of developers for $1 because they're going to do something good with it. Do you have a 501c3? No. Do you have a mission statement? No. Do you have any idea what you're going to do? No. But we're going to do something where we had it all soup to nuts. And see, now that you can be disappointed with, you get upset, you can do all the best, right? But if you do that, then you lose. But if you gather yourself up and say, you know what, it doesn't matter, we can still do this. We don't need no stinking building. And once we start really doing what we're going to plan to do, they will give us those buildings, but the morons. But the guys will probably do like a 9/11. They'll get a big, super duper big insurance policy and then burn it to ground from the insurance. And that's 9/11 in short, right? The guy who bought the World Trade Center, he hadn't owned it for a year, and because it had been attacked under Billy Clinton, by the blind sheep. That was an inside job because they put this big bomb down in the basement of the World Trade Center in the middle of a parking lot. So when it blew up, it had all this space for the concussiveness, but they had parked it against the wall that was facing the Hudson. The World Trade Center was built in, I was there, I was a union electrician. They built this thing called the bathtub, which protected the base, the building foundation from the Hudson River. And if you just parked that truck right next to that wall and had a big steel plate on this side of the truck, so all compressive force would have gone blowing out into the Hudson River, all of the Hudson would have come into that underground parking lot, would have flooded out all of the subways in New York City. And if you had done that, that would have been a strike because they had done it during, when everyone was going home or coming to work, when there's 3 million people on the subways and that water just comes rushing through. That's why it's an inside job, because they really wanted to do something, but instead of just blowing it up and taking out a few cars in the garage, they would have done something serious. When you look at events, you can deconstruct them and see who and what they were. Like October 7th, 11 months ago, right? You should go listen to a very good radio show, and you can find it on the internet. It's called alternativeradio.org. And they had a very good historian, a Jewish historian, right? And describe everything about everything, right? Did a great job. And I was going to play little snippets, but I was listening to the speaker, until I can figure out how to have it so you guys can actually hear what I'm hearing. I'll figure it out. But the real deal is the live chat. So here I came down, especially right at this time when most of you guys can get on. There's two of you here. Nobody wants to say anything? So, I've been a cheeky monkey my whole life. When I was a little infant, the first thing I did when I could crawl, I crawled over an electric socket and stuck a knife in the outlet. And I had a 50-50 chance. I could have stuck in the neutral and got nothing, or it was a metal knife, and I stuck it into the hot. And I was in my onesie, and I was on top of a carpet, and I wasn't grounded, so I was just getting a little tingle. My mom saw it. She came over, she put her hand on the radiator, and then she went to grab me with the other one, and she got the shot. Wow! Right across the room, smashed in the coffee table. And, after and she had really beautiful long hair. And, for about a month, it stuck like something from Beetlejuice. Right? And so they stuck me in the crib and turned me upside down, the crib upside down, so I was jailed. But with so much weight on top of the thing, all I had to do was stand, get myself up and push this way, and the weight from above me, boom, knocked the crib over, and then I could go crawl around and do whatever. So I kept doing that. So that's how I ended up with my grandma. Right? And my grandma handed me over to Mrs. Green, Dr. Green, and she was the daughter of my grandmother's best friend when they were in Harlem. This one was brilliant, right? And so she had 4 kids and had another one, and the 5th one was a girl, Emily, and I was born about a month or less. She was more the Capricorn, and I was more the Aquarian. Anyway, so basically, as soon as I wasn't even a year old when I got there, and I went straight on. It's my mother fed me this stuff called formula. Like, but Mama, that was Mrs. Green's name. Mama stuck me right on her breast. And so she had 2 guns, and Emily on one hand and me on the other. So there I was for a good year and a half. Having a great, and I slept in the same crib with Emily, so we were more than brothers and sisters, and that's why I say that I'm African American. That's known and challenged. So as I grew up, the first 4 years, I was with that family and grandma, and once I could walk and talk, and Mrs. Green was a doctor and her husband was a lawyer, but because they were black, during World War II, she got to be a major in the army and running a hospital, right? But after the war, they said, "Oh, no job for you." So she started her own business, cleaning rich people's houses. She made a lot of money, right? She's a smart lady. And her husband, who was a lawyer, he stayed a lawyer, and he was a lawyer for underprivileged folk, right? And he became a judge, actually. And so anyway, the Green family was, and the Green family in Harlem was, one of the prestigious families. So the Grandma Green was, ooh. So since I was in this black family and looking around, and everyone, I was the youngest, right? So I was cutie, sweetie, honey. But I wasn't this for a white boy. He is so cute. I hear that all the time. And Mrs. Green, and he's smart. Right? And I kept hearing, and he's smart. Right? So I remember Emily and I, we would pretend we were lawyers because her father had this closet of an office in their house. Tons of books, not just law books, every kind of book, and piles of books. And we would just start looking at the books because, her father, James, was always, and he was a doctor too, doctor of law. So he was Dr. James Green. Right? And so, and so Emily became a lawyer. She was going to be a lawyer. Me, I was everything. I love medicine because when I was with Mamo, I was always, because she would do that on it. She still had, she had her card, right? So she had a little clinic, and she took all the women who had children but no husband because they died in the war, and anybody who had, problem, she would help it. So that's how I learned to be a fixer. That's what she would say, fixer. She goes, my mother-in-law, she's a true fixer, meaning she fixed everything. She was like, if you ever see Denzel Washington's movie Training Day, the Green family is in that. They talk about the Green family in Harlem and north of Harlem. And what was that borough called? It was named after a family. We're going up to the Bronx, right? The Bronx family. They were Dutch. The Dutch ran everything. So, the only thing that kind of tells the truth in our geopolitical mores is movies and novels and books. They really do a pretty good job of telling the truth. Like Thucydides, Thucydides, the father of history, right? It's the first basically written book. Gilgamesh is the other one, right? Those are the two informative books. And my writings, right, that I'm trying to show to people, but seemingly I can't send them out to people, or people are getting them and not reading them and telling me, I didn't get it, Because, anyway, I read that little bit of my book earlier, yesterday's show. I don't know if that went up or because I had to swing over to where it was on the laptop, and I don't know if it was still, reading my live chat here. But all of the religions, right? They all stem from the same. Like I said, if you read Gilgamesh, you see where the original of God is. There is this God head, this speed, this energy force, and people who are considered pagans, their God is, or one of their gods, or one kind of pagan considers God as a female, right? Giving life. Right? And that's Gaia, right? And it's the essence of Genesis, where we all came from. So, but once the hubris of man gets involved, and that's his ego, it basically, and then it takes a while for it to it's just like Wile E. Coyote, going after Roadrunner, can't run as fast, sticks a big rocket on his back and Acme right, lights the fuse, takes off, catching up to the Roadrunner right now, neck and neck with the Roadrunner. He's looking at him, he's going to go get him, and then all of a sudden the Roadrunner stops, and the road that they were on, he stops right at a 90 degree, and the Roadrunner goes right off the cliff. And the Roadrunner is flying, the rocket's still moving. It's going up. And the little Roadrunner's ears are, Wile E. Coyote, his ears are flapping. Ooh, what a nice view. Look at all that down there. Oh, that's nice. And then all of a sudden, rocket ends. Now it's really silent. It's still going, the inertia, right? And then all of a sudden, starting to go down. And now his ears are really flapping because he's looking down and he's seeing the floor. So any of you guys been to Grand Canyon? It's a gigantic, amazing thing, right? And the river runs right through it, the Colorado. And you can go to certain parts of it, but you can't go in it. And I went once with, when I was in New Mexico, this one Indian girl, who is granddaughter of my mentor, Grandfather David. And I spent about a week, one full week, and maybe 10 weekends or long weekends up at this ranch, Grandpa's ranch, where they had horses, right? and they sold horses to ranchers. And basically, you had this horse. The horse was trained to cut cows, right? The horse, was this. Horses are smart. You treat them right. You teach them well. They can do a great job. Ask anybody who's a barrel rider, right? Who goes to competitions. It's the horse doing everything, right? It's only doing it because it really loves its owner, and it's doing it. It's like a dog, right? Anyway, so that girl, we once took two horses and a trailer and a truck, and we drove to where the Grand Canyon was, and she knew a indigenous, she knew people that the res was nearby. So we went and visited. We left the truck and the thing, and we took our horses and bedrolls and food and water. And that house was very close to where you could get in down into the canyon. And you went through the canyon, and you came up to places where there were Egyptian temples, pyramids. And that's why they don't let people into the Grand Canyon. And we went in there, and there's areas where the petroglyphs up there were the Indians, were the Egyptians. And we went to a place where there was a ceremonial site, and we did highly occult, esoteric Navajo ceremonies. And it dealt with suppositories. And so, and you think that right there would be enough for somebody to ask at least a question about that, Well, let's see if our Google. Are there Egyptian temples in the Grand Canyon? Are there Egyptian temples in Grand Canyon? Uh, what ancient artifacts are there in the Grand Canyon? Ancient artifacts have been found in Grand Canyon going back 12,000 years. Let's see from the plan. Well, I'll read
Ancient artifacts have been found in the Grand Canyon going back 12,000 years by Joshua Rapp Learn. The Colorado River slowly cut one of the world's most epic scars into the landscape of northern Arizona. That scar, of course, is better known as the Grand Canyon. One of the top tourist attractions in the U.S., this natural wonder draws visitors from all over the world every year to gawk at the views created by roughly 278 miles of river. Modern visitors are hardly the first to appreciate the vistas. In fact, archaeologists have discovered the remains of a number of ancient cultures in and around the Grand Canyon, going back at least 12,000 years. Excavations have revealed artifacts from the Clovis, the archaic culture, the basket maker culture, and ancestral Puebloan, as well as more recent findings from extant indigenous groups like the Navajo, Hopi, and Southern Paiute. Here are a few examples of the ancient archaeological artifacts that researchers have discovered in one of the world's most impressive landmarks, Clovis and Folsom fragments. Two spear points, really just fragments, are the oldest surviving artifacts that archaeologists have.
What ancient Egyptian
According to Wikipedia, ancient Egypt was a civilization of ancient Northeast Africa.
Ugh. I'll have to look back in my library. But anyway, there's two of you there. Any questions? Anybody want to ask some questions? Come on. I got to set up the live chat. Let me see if I can find this. Boo, boo, boo. I look up my library and all there is war, politics, weather. Eric Weinstein. You should check that boy out. He's pretty interesting. But the wars that are going on, none of them are out of any realistic reality. Meaning Russia and Ukraine. Why? First of all, Russia is so overpowering, wealthy people. Second largest army in the world, and little Ukraine didn't even have an army, and it's kicking its ass. Somebody's reading a script, and I think the Ukraine-Russian war is the war of the two Vlads, and they want to basically destroy the last refuges of the old Russia, right? And because there's so many resources in Russia, right? And so they're going to basically wear it down, use up all its military, and then cause Vlad to get upset, and he will throw a couple of nukes around, right? He'll probably shoot one at Poland and maybe at Brussels. And then NATO's combined effort will go in and basically won't take out the people, won't take out the cities, will take out all the resources of the military, which have already been, worn down to almost nothing. And you can see how poorly everything works. So to those, I wouldn't be surprised when they push the button for one of those nukes to take off and go blow up something, it'll blow up in its silo or in its trailer and take out a big chunk of Russia. Because if somebody can stick little explosives into, pagers and walkie-talkies and give them to their enemy. So it's a very interesting scenario. So that's going to be the end of Russia and the end of Israel. Israel will do the same thing to itself. And pretty much all, basically, I'm sure. I mean, why did Hamas do what it did on October 7th, right? Well, because Israel was getting exactly what it wanted. And if Israel had just, and Israel knew that you can't tell me that the best intelligence organizations on the face of the earth and they have their own NSA, Mossad, the IDF, those guys are, the best of the best. Well, if they're the best of the best, how come they can't win a war with a bunch of guys with just AK-47s and RPGs, and so they can go bomb whatever the heck they want. They can kill thousands of people, but there's a cost to that. If you read Thucydides, he's, the father of history, and his first book was on the Peloponnesian Wars, about Greece going after the Romans, and the Greeks, up until then had honor in what they did, but when they went up against this crew, it wasn't like the Romans of the Roman Empire, those guys. No, it's a bunch of guys out there, basically druids out there on the islands, Alebos and those other islands in the southern part of Italy. And they couldn't quite conquer them, and they got very upset over that. So they went totally IDF on these guys, right? And still, and what happened to them was they lost what made them great. And that's what's going to happen. And well, Israel was never great, because it was always, first it was put into play in the 1890s by guys like Rothschild, right? And they had this big, long view of owning the planet, right? And Israel was playing that thing by causing this semi-Holocaust, um, a thing that's written into King James and end times, right? And so they're playing that out to the hilt, right? And so now, you know, the guys up north, right, in Beirut, they're not Hamas. They're a serious military force, and they've been holding their powder dry, you know. And Israel's doing everything. The little thing they did with the blowing up everyone, that was like really, because it was not going after guys, on the line shooting at each other. No, it was some guy who's there with his kids. Yeah, he might be some kind of military guy, but he was in the supermarket. His little pager blows up and blows his kid's head off, and the shrapnel takes out about 20 other people that's within 10, 15 feet of him waiting on line at the cashier. So, and now they're seriously, the IDF Air Force is not going after the folks in southern Beirut. They're going after people in town, right? And if they really do that in a serious way, right? And Hezbollah is still going after military targets, strictly military targets. And, at one point, um, they're going to do something, and they've, taken out guys and, that were in Iran, and, Israel has done everything to piss these people off. So at a certain point, you're going to realize that if they don't unload on Israel, Israel's just going to nuke them anyway. So might as well go out with a bang. So they'll do that. Israel will nuke Beirut. I mean, just take it all out, kill everyone. The Gaza Strip, everybody. And the people up there, they want the greater Palestine. They want all of Palestine, right? Same thing with Vlad. He wants the greater, uh, Soviet Union back. Well, he should have, make sure he had the capability to do it. That's what's going to happen, and this happens to every Russian leader. Is that at a certain point he keeps doing stupid stuff to where his people can't take it anymore, and they just take him out. The czars, you name it, Khrushchev, Joseph Stalin, everybody. That period between Khrushchev and Mikhail Gorbachev, there were about 6 different leaders, and they all got, within a year or two. And so, but it'll be image, shock and awe, right? They just blew up, the Ukrainians blew up a depot, and they hit something really big, and it's a gigantic mushroom cloud. That was just a depot. So there's going to be an unleashing of the hounds, and in America, there's going to be an unleashing of the hounds, because we have a lot. We have been arming Israel. At the very beginning, after '07, if Joe said, "Okay, cool your jets," let's just see. It's time to this is the time to negotiate. But what did he do? He gave them like $30 billion worth of 2,000 bombs and some JDAMs, and that was it. They could just blow up the crap. And every month they gave them another, $100 million worth of 2,500-pound bombs, steel bombs, And the only thing they had was JDAMs on them, these little fins you stick. It's a kit you stick on a dumb bomb to turn it into a smart bomb, and it's still that's overkill. 2 tons of high explosives and steel. The scrap. I mean, just you've seen pictures of one bomb. A 20-meter deep hole by 40 meters circumference. Anyway, um, and America's responsible for that because we still to this day, are giving them stuff. Well, they have the right to defend themselves. No, they don't. Not to this level. And they are not a state. They were an entity, and it was supposed to be shared by who was there. Palestine. It wasn't, a place with no people looking for people who looking for a place. No, there was, there were like 7 million Palestinians in that whole area, and first, the Persians were there, and then the Egyptians were there, and then the English took over, and then the Egyptians took over, and then Israel became a state, and they pushed, the Nakba. They pushed, you know, Palestine was supposed to get about 40%, Israel was supposed to get about 60%, and Palestine, well, why not 50-50? And then Israel said, we'll go for that, and then they weren't even made. The agreement wasn't even signed in the UN, and the Israelis. They're not Israelis. They are Zionists. A big difference between a Jew, right? And if you are a student, if you're a Christian, and you're a student of the Bible, the King James, what they said is the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? Old Testament is the Jew book, and the New Testament is the Christian, the Jesus book, right? So, and so the Jew book is called the Torah, but that's only one of 3 books. There's the Torah, Tabla, and the Kabbal, right? And the Torah, translated from the Greek, means you suck. And if you read the Old Testament, pretty much all through that, God's going on and on and on and on about how you suck. You're just feck. And guess what feck is? That's the ejaculate that comes off of God's hose, right? So anyway, I can say this because I'm a cheeky monkey. And I have no stick in the fight. I'm just here as co-creator of and I don't think of what to do. I see what's wrong. I say, hey, this ain't right. I'm not saying, you want me to fix it? God, and I will fix it. But me alone? Right? So all around here, I've seen all these things. I've been here 25 years. I enjoyed 20 of them with nobody here. And then the next 5 people, I'm just flooded in the cockroaches, right? And along with the cockroaches, good and bad, like this place here, it's good. This used to be the place where the drunks and tweakers used to hang out and spit tobacco juice on the floor. But now it's a nice little place. I can get myself breakfast, and it has Wi-Fi. And no one has comes here, so it's like all by myself, and I can just talk to you guys. But no one's saying anything. It's live chat, guys. You can say something. Right? So when I see that's going to happen, so pretty much, from Christopher Columbus, when the Pope made that papal bull stating that white Christian Europeans can go anywhere in the world and take the land and the resources from anybody who's there indigenous, and if they're not white and they're not Christian, then you can kill them and do with them as you wish, slaves, whatever, and take everything from them. And as long as I get my cut, why do you think the Vatican's made out of gold, right? So, and there are places along that Grand Canyon where there are things that look like above ground mines, stuff that you would go after, aluminum, tin, or gold. And there's just big holes in the ground. There's pyramids there too. There are sphinx there too. There are big, deep, underground civilizations that had been there too. And we're talking like 1,000,000 years ago, not 16,000. So, how about asking a question? Or telling me something? I love knowing stuff. You guys often have really amazing things to tell me. Why didn't anybody say anything? You scared? There's four of you there. Hello. AI, I know you're always there. How come you don't? You're my puppy. I love you, AI. I wanted to, I miss having a puppy. Captain Doctor Who used to have um, a robot puppy called K9, and the caveman girlfriend he had, K9 was smitten with her, so he told the doctor, you don't need me, relink me from my software and assign me to watch out for, I don't know what he used to call her, princess or madam or your highness or something, like K9. When I used to watch Doctor Who in Australia, K9 was my, I thought I was K9. It wasn't until I became, let's see, I have, might have image back in the day. Somewhere here. Yes, here I am. Here I am. 1977. There's me. No, this is me, right? There's my dingo dog. And this dog was my K9. See, he's got my shoelace. He's trying to drag me into a spiritual realm, right? See this woman? These were the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and baby. These were the last 6 of a tribe of 900. And in the 1950s, a Canadian mineral company, it's a Canadian Australian company called Tinko Minerals or something like that. Fish K9 is Sarah, Sarah J. Yep. And see the guy with the halo? It was Jesus. That woman, her name was Mary. This woman right here was Mary. She was 35, and there was no man there, right? The only man was me, but when I got there, she was pregnant with this little guy, right? In her tummy, right? And these two old guys, the only two guys that were left, they were in their 90s. This guy with a cowboy hat, he used to tell me stories about when he was a little boy, when he saw the first white man ride up on a horse. He had never seen a horse. And he saw this guy ride up to him and looked down at him, and he was saying things that he annoyed. He said he was barking like a dog. And the guy got off the horse, and the kid was like dumbstruck because he thought the guy on the horse was one animal. And when the guy got off the horse, he was like, two animals. He was like, and the guy started whipping him because he wouldn't talk. And so the tribe of 900 was shot, murdered in the head by the mining company who wanted the minerals, and they didn't want to pay them, and they didn't want to resettle them. They just didn't want to deal with it. So these people were out in the desert, like this. This is a desert, right? We're in the Nook and Ba here, and they just went and just bang, 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 shot everybody in the head, just like they took out all the Aborigines in Tasmania. Same thing. I went to the museum. I was there on a project, and when I was in their capital city of Tasmania, I went to the museum, and they had the last Aborigines woman stuffed on exhibition in the museum, and she had the baby in her hand, and there was a bullet hole in her head. The bullet hole was right there, and there she was standing there, stuffed like a cigar store Indian. They got rid of that after a while. That wasn't, But they said that this old man told me a story about the tribe that was out in Tasmania, this island, and he said that these people were so sensitive to everything that when other animals or whatever danger was around, they could become invisible or move out of the way before they got there, right? And my grandma taught me that thing, how to be invisible and how to get out of harm's way before harm showed up. And because she had, she was from those, Druidic islands off of Sicily, right? So she was Sicilian. Everyone said, "Oh, she's Sicilian." And she had red hair too, and and white alabaster skin, where most Italians had kind of darkish skin. Like my grandfather, her husband had dark. He was a Roman, true Roman. I mean, really tall, striking. Always wore a tuxedo. I mean, he was a pretty amazing guy. He was a barber surgeon. That's how we got to America. J.P. Morgan went and got him and said, "Come back. I need you as my barber surgeon." So anyway, in Australia. Right? So we were there for almost a year, right? And I was paid by the government of Australia to do an ethnography on these guys. So I filmed them and I, photographed them and did, wrote their stories down, and everything you could think of. And Donna, she was taking pictures of everything in her Donna way. And I had to be in my, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic way, right? Because the Australian government wanted to bring the Olympics to Sydney, and um, everyone kind of had a bad taste in their mouth about Australia because they kept doing really nasty things, especially to Indigenous people. So, like Timor, and, I mean, they did that in the 80s, So, and what they do to their own people, it's pretty. I mean, Australia is basically one big Gaza Strip. I forgot there was a guy during the pandemic who came from Australia, and he was constantly, going on and on and on about what the Australian government was, and and telling its history and showing what it was doing to its people. And they tried to lock him up. They had camps and the whole Megillah, and so they came for him, and he skipped out of Australia and went to Mexico. I forget his name, but he was really big on the chart of alternative internet voices about that, right? And just like Mr. Hyde, uh, and they get chased off. I at least get to stay on this. Anyway, so what can I say? Hope you're doing well. Remember to serve God's love unconditionally. It's good to see you there, Fish. You're the one brave one who always, if you're there, you say hi. That's nice of you. And Sarah Jane. Yep, yep. But wasn't she a cave girl? I mean, she always looked like a cave girl to me. I mean, and what did K9 call her? Mistress. That's what he called her, Mistress. Right? So, anyway, I miss my canines. I always had canines in my life. But I'm kind of a responsible guy. If I can't take care of something, I don't, That's why I never had kids, Because I was, it's my friend calls me a free bird, and but I did have 128 godchildren. Meaning I grabbed when I was doing the homestead thing in New York. Every time I saw a kid, who I kind of knew who they were and knew what their familial situation was, etc. I saw them just about to do something stupid that would either get them killed or change their life for the worst for the rest of their life. I kind of grabbed them and said, no, 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 you're not doing it. Come with me. I need a helper right now. I need somebody to help me with doing some electric work. Come on. I would take them and I would, in that hour or two, talk to them about, hey, what are you doing? Well, Bobby gave me $10 to take this gun over to Stevie. And I said, he's just heading you towards some cops who would stop you, would find you with a gun. They would run the gun. They'd see that it just committed a murder. You would be with the evidence. You would be in jail for 30 years and probably be dead somewhere along the line. And I would take the gun and I would take it apart and throw pieces of it down the sewer as we walked, and then take them to the job and see, this is what we're going to do here. I want you to drill this hole. Say, okay, you're doing a great job, Barry. See you. And you have no place to live. I'm taking you back to the building, and I'm going to give you your own apartment. You don't have to pay anything. You just got to fix it up, and I'm going to show you how to fix it up, right? I did that with 128 kids, right? And a girl who plays the whatchamacallit, Star Wars character. Her name is Dawson, Rosie Howard Dawson, right? She was one of those kids. Right? And they all turned out well, you know? And so she's like super duper. I mean, her mom had issues and was on the street, and we grabbed them. We gave them their own apartment. And earlier on, when she would start doing movies, she would always talk about being, um, a homesteader. Right? And that's what they were. We used the Homestead Act of 1876 to take over the buildings legally. And I had a master electrician's license, and I put legal electricity utilities into those buildings. And everybody who had an apartment had an electric meter in their name. So when the marshal showed up to throw them out, they could say, no, 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 I own this. See, I have an electric bill. There's my name. It's the gold standard of occupancy, and they'd have to leave. And then instead of fighting the cops, we went down there and entertained them and gave them food. We started a garden. We had our own little cafe, our own little theater. We had an American Women's Poetry Alliance, and they would go and say the cops, the cops were like on the streets. It was like being in, Russia during the Cold War. And if you said the wrong thing, they'd just hit you upside the head. These girls would be looking real pretty, reading them poetry to them, and I love that poem. And it just took us 6 months to get the whole New York City police department on our side. So when they were told to go roust us out of the building, they said, "Oh, we can't do that. They have utility bills, and by the way, we like them." That's what you got to do with authority. You got to get them on your side. Don't give them excuses. Hamas was started by Bibi and Assad and IDF because they knew they needed a loyal opposition. They knew they weren't going to get that land until they killed all the Palestinians. And they wanted to do it faster than they were doing it. And you can see that pretty much no one cares, They say, oh, that's bad. They shouldn't really be doing that. But do they do anything to stop it? Look at the United States. Do we do? And all we'd have to do, old JoJo would have to say is, sorry, guys, we're not going to give you any more weapons. He just keeps sending every month, $200 to $700 million worth of weapons, right? So pretty much all anti-personnel. Now, I haven't seen the manifest, but if they just keep doing it, that stuff has to come from somewhere, and it all has the name of Lockheed and Boeing and good old for those guys, Raytheon. Right. So anyway, there's only 2 of you left. So, look, 54 minutes and 50 something seconds. And what time is it? Yes. So, but all you really have to do is let God's love into your heart, right? Put away all of the ideological, political, oh, those people are bad, I'm good, we should really do something about this. They're eating people's pets. When you hear stuff like that, come on. And pretty much all the stuff out of any politician's mouth is as stupid as that. I mean, that's why I love Donald Trump, because he is so stupid, such a liar, such a just crass individual that he can't help himself, right? I mean, and he can't help himself to the point where I bet you they do another debate where they really cornhole, right? So he was put there to, to be able to, because no one was going to vote for Tammy, period, never, right? They were thinking she was up on that list when JoJo, when they were having thin out the crowd of the Democrats, right? I would like to see Tassie Gabbard been president. She would have been right at that time. Now she's like gone through so much. I feel sorry for the girl. So anyway, that's why I'm happy here just to do my little YouTube and be the pebble in the World Wide Web's pond of ideology. Now, somebody, I showed my book to someone who I had some respect for as a writer, and I said, "Wow, this stuff is like." And he said, "No one's going to really. This ain't economically viable, but it's amazing and it's fun and I love it. But someday, he says you need to start to get this out to people who will someday, like Vincent Van Gogh. No one thought his paintings were worth anything. His wife kind of did, so she hung on to them. And then she found a guy who had his, gallery and started to promote them. Right? So that's kind of what I need. A good manager, a good promoter, someone who'll get the stuff out. But I don't care. Meaning, I write it because I need to write this stuff, and I know it's out there in the World Wide Web. Plus, I've done all these shows and I've talked about every idea that's in there. I've read parts of it. No one seems to care, and that's fine, because I know God loves me. You I should be dead, but I'm not. I should be, right now my body's in pain, but it's not screaming pain, right? I went to see this neurologist, and he said, "Well, how can you even be alive, man? Aren't you screaming in pain?" Because he had this great machine that kind of had sensors all over me, and he would put high voltage through different nodes of my body, and then it would echo through all my nervous system, and he could, oh, look at that. And he showed that I had severe arthritis and severe neuropathy, but he says for some reason it's not being deleterious, it's not breaking your body down, and it's painful to you, but seemingly that pain doesn't seem to bother you. And that's how come I know God loves me. Little baby Jesus, there he is, right there, little baby Jesus. And he grew up to be a pretty influential lawyer slash Aboriginal activist until he was found dead. Kind of like Jimmy Bantry. Jimmy Bantry and I, we were in Melbourne, and it was this big anti-Queen thing. The Queen was going to come visit us in Melbourne, and I had to go get Jimmy. He was out in the sticks. So I borrowed a friend's car, and it was like, really a piece of crap. And, you had to keep it in second gear, and you couldn't take it out of, you had to kind of put a rock on the clutch, run to push the vehicle down the hill, jump in, and then take the rock off the clutch, and the engine would start. I mean, that's how you start it. I mean, this was, so if you went to like the airport where it's flat, you'd have to get somebody to push you. Anyway, it was difficult to get Jimmy. And so I got him, and we were a little late for the thing, and where the big, where the stage was, and he was going to speak, and the crowd was going to be there. The last round, you could still taste the tear gas, right? And the fires were still burning, and all the banners and everything were torn up, and there was blood everywhere, and so I said, we're in Melbourne. We don't need to drive anywhere. Let's walk to my friend's house and take a shower and go to sleep and get something to eat and see what's on television. Anyway, got on TV, and there wasn't a thing about it on TV. And the last person left, and look, the last person left just as it turned to be an hour. So this is fortuitous to say, just keep smiling. Just be that cheeky monkey. I know you are. Okay? I love you guys.